We're using moon sign to determine compatibility. Today we're going to be looking at the fixed moon signs. There's 3 different modalities. It's cardinal, fixed, and mutable, and these 4 signs are the fixed signs. We did a video on the cardinal signs, which talk about action, fast-paced movement, whereas the fixed signs talk about being fixed in place, being secure and difficult to change or move. And if a fixed sign is in action, it will be very difficult to stop that action. So Taurus is the fixed earth sign. It talks about securing your physical belongings, your possession, your money, your home, the idea of locking away your valuable possessions, Taurus energy. Leo moon is the fixed fire sign. So it talks about securing and protecting your sense of self and your ego. It's where confidence comes from, is a secure sense of self. Leo rules confidence. Scorpio is the fixed water sign, so it talks about fixating on emotions, stubborn emotions that are difficult to release, that you hold and pent up inside of you. And then Aquarius is the fixed air sign, so it talks about a secure and sturdy mind, the locking away of your secret knowledge and information, your intellectual property. Because signs that are in the same modality form squares and oppositions with each other, there is potential for an emotional connection, but again, it's going to be laced with tension and conflict compared to signs that are in a trine or sextile. It's even more emphasized for fixed signs specifically because they tend to all be kind of stubborn in their own individual way, and it results in a lot more butting of heads. Okay, so we're going to start with the oppositions. The first opposition is Taurus opposite Scorpio. Now, when people have their moon in opposite signs, it means that they're going to be emotionally satisfied and have emotional needs that are completely opposite each other. And this is even more special because the moon is exalted in Taurus, but in her fall in Scorpio. If we're applying the essential dignity in Hellenistic astrology to look at the compatibility, it's worth noting that the moon does really well in Taurus. The moon enjoys Taurus. It's a pleasurable experience where Taurus is the sign that rules fertility and growth and pleasurable sensory experiences in your physical body. Whereas Scorpio is the fixed water sign, so it talks more about emotions, but also negative emotions, painful sensations and experience, and even in some cases, death, trauma, grief, loss, a lot of really heavy emotional subjects that are very difficult to move on from. And so Scorpio is that fixed water sign, emotions that stay with us and fester inside of us. So when you look at the conflict in this opposition, I see the Taurus moon as somebody who's like, oh, just do this thing and everything will get better. Just have a self-care day and run a bath and eat some chocolates and you'll be fine. And the Scorpio moon is like, I feel so shattered emotionally that you don't even understand. And you're over here collecting skincare items to make yourself feel better while I'm like emotionally torn apart on the inside, and I'm really jealous of you and how easy it appears that you have it, and I feel emotionally resentful towards you. So that's kind of the red flag with this moon sign combination. But with that being said, if everyone's mature and everyone is working on all their emotions, this balance can actually work out really well. Scorpio is also the sign that rules hidden wealth. So Taurus is the wealth that you have in your possession. Scorpio is the wealth that is inaccessible. It is not in your possession currently. It's buried treasure, including inheritance and secret stashes that are, safety deposit locked away, or offshore accounting that's like, assets that you really don't have current access to immediately. So this combination can be really great for building wealth, storing wealth, and keeping money saved for a rainy day. But of course, there's way more in the chart that's going to determine how this really plays out. The Taurus moon, you're going to want to look at your Venus placement to see how this Taurus moon is really behaving. And the Scorpio moon, you're going to want to look at your Mars placement or your Pluto placement in modern astrology. The other opposition for fixed signs is Leo moon opposite Aquarius moon. In my opinion, this is the more desirable opposition to have if you have fixed moon signs. Leo and Aquarius are both very fun-loving and playful energies. Leo is the sign that rules fun and playfulness and joy and creative self expression. Love searches where you're just singing and dancing and having a blast. And Aquarius is the sign that talks about the collective, the group. In its positive expression, it is a big party where everybody is living as their unique self, but they're all coming together to enjoy each other's company. And it can be a really good combination if you're living in that fun, playful energy. Leo is the sign that rules the performer, the person who is center stage and can easily capture people's attention with their spotlight. Whereas Aquarius rules the audience that is receiving that performance, the collective or the group that is opposite the performer. In modern astrology, Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Uranus rules large crowds. And so that expression of Aquarius is someone who loves to be in the crowd, in a big audience and the collective group. Whereas traditional astrology, Saturn rules Aquarius. Saturn rules isolation, being separated from the collective. People who have their moon sign ruled by Saturn tend to build walls around their emotions in order to protect their vulnerabilities from the outside world. Aquarius moon tends to have a lot of emotional boundaries and they tend to be more emotionally withdrawn or isolated. Of course, Leo is still going to experience isolation to an extent and emotional isolation if you're a Leo moon, but it's a different kind of emotional isolation. The Aquarius isolation comes from feeling exiled and feeling invisible and left out in the cold, whereas the Leo isolation comes from being put on this pedestal almost. It's lonely at the top. Leo rules royalty and the king, and so it's this person who feels kind of a disconnect from the general public because of the pedestal that they have put themselves on or have been put on by others. And again, this opposition draws conflict where the Aquarius moon is going to have more boundaries and walls up, where the Leo moon is going to be freely expressing their emotions and how much they love this person and how much they care about them. And they enjoy grand gestures that show that people care about them. Whereas the Aquarius moon is much more reserved in the way that they're emotionally interacting with other people. And it might leave the Leo moon feeling dissatisfied or the Aquarius moon feeling emotionally overwhelmed by all that extra shit that the Leo moon is doing. Again, the rest of the chart is really going to determine how exactly these are playing out. For the Leo moon, you're going to want to look at your sun sign. The sun rules Leo. And for Aquarius moon, you're going to want to look at your Saturn sign and your Uranus sign. You're going to want to look at both. This video is going to be looking at the squares between these signs, or the 90-degree aspects. So we have Taurus moon and Leo moon, and I would arguably say this is the best square out of all the fixed signs to have. Taurus is the sign that rules fertility and growth, financial, physical, stability, and security. Leo is the sign that rules confidence, pride in the family and family name. Leo is the sign of royalty. All four of the fixed signs talk about trying to hold on to something and fix it in place. And Taurus is about fixing your belongings in place and the good things that bring you pleasure and abundance. Leo is the sign that talks about securing your ego and sense of self, establishing confidence and pride. These two moon signs working together towards a common goal are really good at building wealth and resources as well as clout and social status. But again, because they're fixed signs, they're both going to be stubborn, and that square may exhibit some conflict or tension between the two people. Taurus is an earth sign, so if they are physically comfortable, they're not going to want to move. They're going to want to stay fixed in place. Leo is the fixed fire sign, so fire talks about visibility, being seen, attracting attention like moth to a flame, and Leos tend to be fixated on capturing attention, whether they are performative or dramatic or just very grand and expressive with their emotions. So there are some Taurus moons who are going to really love the princess treatment that the Leo moon wants to give them. But there's other Taurus moons who are just like very chill and down to earth and are like, please stop with the fanfare every time I enter the room. Doing too much. Also, when you're looking at these elements, they say that earth and fire are like incompatible. And one of the reasons for that is earth rules your money, your possessions, your physical belongings. Fire burns that shit up. So mixing fire with earth like this, there runs the risk of the Leo moon kind of burning through all of the Taurus moon's resources. So now we're going to look at the square between Leo and Scorpio. We talked about Leo. We talked about how they can be sometimes a little performative or just very grandiose and proud to share their emotions and show their loved ones they care about them. Scorpio is the sign that talks about privacy, retreating into your shell, having your stinger ready in order to defend yourself and protect your vulnerabilities against attack. In my last video, I talked about how the moon is in her fall in Scorpio, and it tends to deal with difficult emotional subjects that are very painful and difficult to release and overcome, things like death and trauma. And Leo is the fixed fire sign, so they're focusing on the good and the fun and the playful times, and there can really be a disconnect there. One of the things about Leo is that it's fixed fire, so it's very focused on self, and Leo moons may put their own emotional needs first and foremost and not budge on them. Scorpio is the sign that rules exchange of energy and resources. It's a very transactional energy. And so the moon is in her fall in Scorpio because there's this emotional transactions that happen where either the person with the Scorpio moon expects to have the same emotional support that they provided to somebody as a part of a transaction, or they're subject to that kind of thinking where somebody will comfort them and give them support and then be like, I did this for you, now you have to do this for me. And it becomes very tense and uncomfortable emotionally. The Scorpio moon may feel like they're giving emotional support and the Leo moon is accepting that and hyping themselves up. And then when it comes time for them to get that emotional support in return, the Leo moon is just focused on themselves and not returning that transaction. And that could lead to tension that builds up between these two moon signs. Scorpio is also, it's the sign that talks about feminine power and feminine empowerment. So a Scorpio moon tends to have a very like magnetic and attractive aura that kind of pulls people in, very seductive energy. And the Leo moon, who is very playful and fun and cool, might be like willing to try that out. It's giving golden retriever boyfriend with like dominatrix girlfriend pairing. Now we're looking at Scorpio moon square Aquarius moon. So we've talked about Scorpio and Aquarius in my previous video. We're going to talk a little more about them. Scorpio, it's the sign that talks about endings, destruction, and desolation, burning something to ash, to the ground and leveling it. But it's also the phoenix that rises from those ashes. It is destruction for the purpose of rebirth and evolution, like a snake shedding its skin. And it's a water sign, so this is very much talking about your emotions, your emotional traumas, and the really heavy emotions that you need to release. Aquarius is the sign that talks about deconstructing and revising old systems, sometimes by destroying them entirely in order to build something new and better that works for everybody. The sign of improvement and innovation, and there is absolutely a death and rebirth process happening within Aquarius. But Aquarius is an air sign, so it talks about your mind, and it talks about breaking down negative mindsets in order to build new mindsets that work better. Breaking down old intellect or old technology and old systems in order to intellectually improve the process. Sometimes it talks about physical infrastructure as well. Literally knocking down a building in order to build a new building in its place is totally Aquarius. It is Saturn ruled. So if there's a Scorpio moon and an Aquarius moon who are in conflict and don't see eye to eye and don't have the same goals for how they want to improve things, then they're going to just be knocking each other's shit down, and it's going to be very toxic and destructive. But if everybody shares a common goal and is working together nicely, if we can play nice, then this Scorpio moon, Aquarius moon combo can actually be really, really incredible. Super innovative, super transformative, the ability to transform themselves emotionally on a personal, emotional level, but then also their ability to have a society-wide impact as a power couple is definitely not to be underestimated. Next, we have Aquarius moon square the Taurus moon. So we talked about Taurus as the fixed earth sign. They really like to be physically secure and comfortable. They create a safe space and a comfortable space for themselves. And if they're pleased and content, they're not going to want that to change. Aquarius is the fixed air sign, and it's ruled by Saturn. So it talks about feeling constrained, like you're being chained up or put in a box, and the need to break those chains and break free from these limitations in order to exceed the expectations and bust out of the comfort zone in order to push people to new limits. So if the Taurus moon has other placements that like make them want to push out of their comfort zone in order to experience new things, then the Aquarius moon may help them bring a little excitement and change to their life that is beneficial. But if the Taurus moon is really content and comfortable where they're at, then this Aquarius moon is only going to bring chaos and disruption, and the Taurus moon will probably cut that out really quickly in order to protect their own physical comfort and stability, which their emotional health depends on. So that's it for the fixed moon sign compatibility. Next, I'm going to do the mutable moon signs, which is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. Also, if you're interested, I do offer compatibility readings on my website. 2-chart synastry reading, and it's an hour and a half long.